Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a dramatic and rapidly unfolding situation in Eastern Europe that has captured global attention. Belarus, often seen as one of the most tightly controlled states in the region, is now facing a storm from within. President Alexander Lukashenko, who has ruled the country for decades, appears increasingly trapped by forces he once believed he fully controlled. At the center of this crisis is a shocking development: signs of betrayal within the army and growing resistance spreading across the nation. For years, Lukashenko maintained power through a careful balance of fear, loyalty, and dependence. The military and security services were considered his strongest pillars. They were rewarded with privileges, funding, and political protection. In return, they ensured stability and crushed dissent whenever it emerged. Protests were met with force, arrests were swift, and opposition voices were silenced. This system seemed unbreakable, at least on the surface. However, recent events suggest that this foundation is beginning to crack. Reports and footage emerging from Belarus indicate growing discontent among soldiers and officers. Some units are allegedly refusing orders, while others are quietly stepping back from enforcing crackdowns on civilians. This hesitation may seem small, but in an authoritarian system, even minor acts of defiance can have enormous consequences. The roots of this unrest go deep. Belarus has faced years of economic stagnation, international sanctions, and isolation. Ordinary citizens are struggling with rising prices, limited job opportunities, and declining living standards. Many blame Lukashenko's leadership and his close alignment with Russia for these hardships. While the public frustration has been visible for some time, the shift within the military marks a dangerous new phase. The army is not immune to the same pressures affecting society. Soldiers come from the same towns and villages as the protesters. They see their families struggling and hear the same complaints. When ordered to confront civilians, many now face a moral dilemma. Obeying orders means turning against their own people. Refusing orders, however, risks punishment or worse. This tension is reportedly causing fractures within military ranks. As these cracks widen, Lukashenko's control looks increasingly fragile. He has responded with familiar tactics: harsh rhetoric, accusations of foreign interference, and warnings of chaos if his rule collapses. State media continues to paint protesters as extremists or agents of the West. Yet this narrative appears to be losing its power, especially among younger Belarusians and parts of the security forces. What makes the situation even more volatile is the scale of public anger. Protests are no longer isolated incidents. They are spreading across cities and regions, involving workers, students, professionals, and even retirees. Strikes at factories and state-owned enterprises are particularly alarming for the government. These industries form the backbone of the Belarusian economy and are traditionally loyal to the state. When workers walk out, it sends a clear message that fear is no longer enough to ensure obedience. It also puts direct economic pressure on the regime. Reduced production, disrupted exports, and declining revenues weaken the government's ability to pay salaries and fund security forces. This creates a dangerous feedback loop, where unrest fuels economic decline, which in turn fuels more unrest. Internationally, the crisis has not gone unnoticed. Western governments have condemned the violence against protesters and imposed additional sanctions. These measures aim to pressure Lukashenko and his inner circle, but they also add to the economic strain on the country. Russia, Belarus's most important ally, is watching closely. Moscow has historically supported Lukashenko, seeing him as a guarantor of stability and Russian influence in the region. Yet even Russia's position may not be as solid as it once was. A weakened and unstable Lukashenko is a liability. If the Belarusian army and public turn decisively against him, Moscow may be forced to reconsider its strategy. Supporting a collapsing leader could be more costly than negotiating a controlled transition that preserves Russian interests. Inside Belarus, fear and hope now exist side by side. Many citizens fear a violent crackdown if Lukashenko decides to rely on loyal units or special forces. Others hope that continued pressure and military hesitation will eventually force meaningful change. The memory of past crackdowns still haunts the nation, but the current moment feels different to many observers. Social media and independent channels play a crucial role in this uprising. Despite censorship and internet shutdowns, information continues to flow. Videos of protests, arrests, and acts of defiance spread rapidly, inspiring others to join. This constant exposure makes it harder for the government to control the narrative and hide abuses. Within the army, silence itself has become a statement. Officers who once appeared publicly loyal are now keeping a low profile. Some have reportedly resigned or taken leave. Others are said to be in quiet contact with opposition figures, though such claims are difficult to verify. Even the possibility of such communication is deeply unsettling for the regime. Lukashenko's personal position looks increasingly isolated. He appears in public with heavy security, sometimes carrying weapons or wearing protective gear, signaling his fear as much as his defiance. These images, broadcast by state media to project strength, may actually reveal vulnerability. A leader confident in his support rarely needs such displays. The question many are asking now is how this crisis will end. Will the army fully break away and side with the people, forcing Lukashenko to step down? Will loyalist forces regain control through violence and repression? Or will there be some form of negotiated transition, possibly influenced by external powers? Each scenario carries serious risks. A violent crackdown could result in bloodshed and long-term instability. It could also push Belarus into deeper isolation and economic collapse. A sudden collapse of the regime, on the other hand, might create a power vacuum. Without careful management, this could lead to internal conflict or increased foreign interference. For now, Belarus stands at a crossroads. The actions of the military in the coming days and weeks may prove decisive. If more units refuse orders or openly support protesters, Lukashenko's position could become untenable. If fear regains its grip, the uprising may be temporarily suppressed, but the underlying problems will remain. What is clear is that the old model of control is no longer working as it once did. Trust between the state and society has been badly damaged. Even if Lukashenko survives this crisis, his rule will likely be weaker and more contested than ever before. The image of absolute authority has been shattered. For the Belarusian people, this moment is both dangerous and historic. Generations have lived under a system that offered stability at the cost of freedom. Now, many are willing to risk that stability in pursuit of dignity, fairness, and a voice in their own future. Whether this desire can overcome repression remains to be seen. The world continues to watch closely. Belarus may not be a major global power, but its fate has implications far beyond its borders. It sits at the intersection of East and West, democracy and authoritarianism, stability and change. What happens here could influence the political direction of the entire region. As events unfold, one thing is certain: Lukashenko is no longer firmly in control of the narrative or the streets. The loyalty of the army, once taken for granted, is now in question. That uncertainty alone has ignited a nationwide revolt unlike anything Belarus has seen in decades. This is a developing story, and the situation remains fluid. Power balances can shift quickly, alliances can change, and unexpected outcomes are always possible. What began as scattered protests has evolved into a profound challenge to a long-standing regime. We will continue to monitor this crisis closely and bring you updates and analysis as new information emerges. The coming days will be critical for Belarus, its people, and the broader geopolitical landscape. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to the channel for more in-depth coverage and clear explanations of the world's most important events.